Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle Podcast. I'm Mike Grahamslaw, and joining me today is the ever insightful and always delightful Iain Mackay. Iain, how are you doing, mate?
Well, I'm buzzing now. Ever insightful and always delightful. That feels a lot better than hasn't spoken a word of sense at any moment that I've ever known him for, which I think I had to live through a week or two ago. But there you go. No, lovely.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Heat of the moment, we all say lovely things to each other, but that is the passion that comes with football. But good to hear you doing well, mate. Good to hear that you're doing well. So we're going to go straight into the big story of the week. It's obviously dominating conversation across the world. And no, I'm not talking about the horrible situation at Morecambe or the fact that Sheffield Wednesday is falling apart, which you wouldn't know if you saw any major news outlet. Just seems to be online that people care about that. It is indeed Alexander Isak, who returned to the place that he works today. Massive shock. Man returns to work. And this was spotted at the training ground on Monday for a couple of issues where he nursed that ongoing thigh issue, which is currently giving him a lot of trouble. Let's be honest, we're going to cut all the horrendous. Is it really a thigh issue, Iain? I'm just going to go straight to the £1 million question, or maybe £150 million question. Do we think we'll see Alexander Isak in a Newcastle shirt again?
I think that if circumstances dictate that we don't need to see him again, i.e. Sesko says yes, Wissa comes on board, that I think we'll sell him to Liverpool, providing we get value, probably in time for him to play against us in 3 weeks, because that will release the funds that we need to move quickly in the last few weeks of the window to strengthen the areas which we haven't really talked about for at least a month: centre back, midfield, maybe an extra maybe two midfielders. Now Willock's got crocked for the first month of the season.
Yeah,
100%. So my gut feel is no, we're not going to see him in a shirt again. We're going to cash him in. As we've talked about before, strikers are premium value at the moment. Just look at people being asked for 50 and 60 million for strikers approaching their 30s, like Watkins and Wissa, really.
Yeah.
So we'll get maximum value for Isak this summer, I think. We'll cash him in. However, I do think that if needs must, a lot of what Eddie Howe said yesterday about not training straight away and having to earn the right to train with Newcastle United if you've behaved poorly. Yep, it was a kind of semi-public reprimand to Isak, but I think it left the door open, if necessary, for an apology, a signing of a contract with a release clause for next summer, and him to come back into the fold. If we can't get a Champions League level centre forward to replace.
Well,
so that's me sitting on the fence for you, Michael.
It's all right. You've gave two great points. To be honest, there's always a fence to sit on. But I think for me, I really want the deal to happen as soon as possible, so we actually have the time to go and get players in. We need 4 realistically at a minimum, but I don't see Liverpool trying to push forward with a deal in the next 2 weeks. I think, let's be honest, they put that first bid in 110, 115, whatever you want to call it. They knew they weren't getting his left leg for that. And I think realistically, they put that in just to say, right, Alex, we've done our bit, we've put a bid in. Now you have to force the issue and realistically torch the relationship between player and club. So yeah, I can't see it happening in the next 2 weeks. I do think it's going to be one of those that happens late in the window. But I do think Newcastle I know our boardroom isn't exactly filled with geniuses right now in a lot of people's minds, and we all do think, I could be doing better than that. But I think it's one of those where, let's be honest, they are clever people. They will know that Isak is probably going to leave. Let's spend the money before we get it. back in, because that 80 million for Sesko goes to 100, etc. But yeah, that market you mentioned earlier, Wissa, what was it, 50 million? Watkins, 60. There's not a market there for strikers at the minute, is there? Really isn't.
Well, the thing is that there's a premium for them. I mean, a premium for wingers. Who would have thought that you know, Mbuemo and Cunha and sort of fairly second tier. I mean, they're good players. I know they're good players. And Alanga, all of that type of standard. It's 50, 60 million plus to actually get the
Yeah,
deals finished, which is, I don't know. I mean, is it a reaction to the fact that um, the Club World Cup has thrown another billion into the pot this summer? Because it has. I mean,
yeah,
it might have just gone into the hands of the few. But if the few include Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea, and they are spending, and when they're spending, they're putting cash into other people's hands. I don't know. Which more cash mean that the price goes up? Um, it's all piff cash as well, which is ridiculous. Different point altogether. But it all seems to stem from our owners. If you trace it back far enough, whether it's
yeah,
uh, whether it's Al Hilal transfer fees being chucked at Darwin Nunes or
yeah.
prize
90
money in
million,
this
they're
new.
saying, potentially in total.
Oh, God, I
Euros, I
know.
think that is. But yeah, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. 90 million euros for Darwin Nunes in total. Now, that's probably slightly inflated. That's what I've seen. We know that they had a 70 million bid rejected in January, where Nunes basically said, "No, I don't want to go to Saudi." Now, let's be honest, Liverpool will actively force him out of the club if it means getting Alexander Isak. So there's no doubt that Nunes will go. AC Milan also interested, but let's be honest, you're probably not getting more than 45, 50 out of them, and they've rejected that already from Napoli. So unless Nunes goes to Saudi, which he's already said he doesn't want to do, that doesn't look like it's actually going to happen. But at the same time, bids of that manner for Darwin Nunes, if you put yourself back to when we sold Alan Saint-Maximin, oh, we've got to check that it's proper value. Is Alan Saint-Maximin really worth 20 million? He was a hell of a lot closer than what Darwin Nunes was to 90. Because there's
Well,
definitely no fitness, fit for purpose
well,
signing there.
there's a case in point. If Alan St Maximan's 20 million, let's say with inflation, we'd be 25 if it was
Yeah,
this year. He's not half the winger that Elanga is, or what do you call him? Mbembo. I can't even say that name. Mbuemo. I
yes,
mean, and then to think we it actually got scrutinised, didn't it? And pulled to bits as to whether 20 million was fair value. It's like it was
it's
overpaid.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Um, but I guess these are, because of our owners, we've got and because of the threat to the big six, we have to sort of comply with these rules that get thrown at us. A lot of them seem to have been invented purely to put the kibosh on us doing a
Yeah,
City or doing a
100%.
Chelsea. And this is what I said probably earlier than a lot of us on the pod thought when I started advocating to get rid of Isak now because he'll never be worth more than he is now because we need to trade
No, you did.
in order to compete. We've got um, we've got a big loss, a big deficit in income to make up, and the only way we can do that quickly is by trading, and that's what we'll do if we can get rid of Isak.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of those where we don't really know how it's going to go this summer, but we're getting to the point of time's running out. And we mentioned there Al Hilal, PF money going everywhere. If Darwin Nunes does end up signing for Al Hilal, that does mean that one Alexander Mitrovic will lose his spot in the squad. Now, I checked this a little bit earlier, and he is already not registered, basically. Him and Renan Lodi, the Brazilian left back, are currently not registered with the club, which means they're both likely to leave. And a third player would have to leave, by the way, for Saudi league rules for Nunes to actually come into the fold. Alexander Mitrovic back at Newcastle United. Would you be, as a backup, would you be disappointed, or is it something you would like to see?
To me, not, would that be on a free? Because he's not registered.
Unfortunately, we'd still probably have to pay a penny, well, a pretty
Uh,
penny, should I say?
I was a fan, big fan of Mitro.
Yeah, so
I know he had disciplinary problems when he first arrived, but they seem to get ironed out. And the thing is, what an explosive striker he was. You know, certainly, if it's a choice between him or bringing Calvert-Lewin in as a backup, I'd take Mitro in a heartbeat.
no brainer, isn't it?
And Premier League proven, not just with Newcastle, but also later on. He was prolific at Fulham, wasn't
Yeah, absolutely fantastic goal record at Fulham. And to be honest, he's had a pretty. It's been just as good at in the Saudi Pro League over the last 2 seasons. But his last season with Fulham in the Premier League, 24 appearances, 14 goals. If you need someone to come off the bench and do a job, it does seem like Alexander Mitrovic could be the man. But again, it's Alexander Mitrovic is probably the one, in my opinion, where we wouldn't be overpaying for someone adequate, who's relatively adequate. But just to end part one there, Ian, I want to get your take on. Obviously, you mentioned cashing in on Alexander Isak, but do you think if it comes to paying, I mean, we've mentioned Nunes, Sesko, Wissa there. Let's say we don't get Sesko, and you're looking at, all right, it's Watkins 30, 60 million with it. I think 2 years left, maybe. Nicholas Jackson's there for 100. I mean, I don't think anyone in their right mind's doing that. Wissa, 1 year, 50 million. Do you cash in on Alexander Isak at 150 million, or actually, let's say 130, because I don't think Liverpool are going to offer 150? And do you overpay for someone who realistically is just a little bit better than adequate? Or do you keep one of the world's top strikers for another year, even though he's only giving you 80%, and just sell him for 30 to 40 million less next year? What do you think?
Well, that's the same. That is the same question, isn't it? It's entirely down to whether Eddie can coax uh, Isak back to wanting to play for Newcastle again. If his heart's set on going to Liverpool and he's going to down tools and be a disruptive influence and only be half-arsed when he plays, like he was in the last 10 games of the season, remember? Then I wouldn't keep him. I would get the cash in, and I don't think a striker like Wissa, who I'm really looking forward to come to, I don't think he's just barely adequate. I think he's a great striker, and I think he might not have a lot of sell-on value after 3 or 4 years, but I think his goals will be priceless.
Hmm. Just to add, maybe I sounded like I said something different, but I just said just better than adequate.
All
Not
right,
barely adequate. He's definitely the other side of adequate.
he
But
definitely
yeah,
is.
yeah, I'd say, even to be honest, just better than adequate. Maybe for Wissa, who's had a fantastic season, is maybe a bit harsh, but there are a lot of players out there, and I do agree. If you can't get Isak to play 75% at his best, and let's be honest, we didn't see the best of him towards the end of the season. We all thought that was because of the injury. Who knows, really, these days? But yeah, it's a really difficult one. Anything more to say on
Don't,
the striker
yeah,
front?
well, I just don't think that we will. I don't think we'll have two Wissers. I don't think, for example, Wisser and Watkins is feasible. I don't think they'll
Yeah.
lay out 40, 50 million on two players who are going to have no sell-on value. That's why they're going for Sesko, of course. But then there are other targets that we could bring in who are much younger that could be improved. The Ramos at PSG was mentioned, and
Yes.
they've got a very thick dossier on him because they've been after him since he was a teenager, I think. So yeah, I think if Wissa comes in, they're going to be looking for a younger striker. My personal favourite, Strand Larson. I'll
Yes.
tell you what I saw, and you just calm down, right? He's still a young man. He's still ready to be revitalised and to develop into the player that he looked like he was going to develop in with the right management. But Hoyland's available for 30 million. I said that with a straight face.
I was about to go straight to an advert and cut you off there. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, Rasmus Højlund, 30 million. It's about time that Man United found his real value, but it's a shame they couldn't do that when they signed him. But yeah, on that note, I'm gonna head straight to the Bioniq adverts.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
All right, let's go to the bigger picture. Yes, there is something bigger than Alexander Isak at 150 million. We've got 4 weeks left of the window. As we're recording this, 4 weeks from now is the 1st of September. So we'll currently in 4 weeks be sitting there probably thinking, how have we only got this in? But hopefully not. Alanga's in, Ramsdale's in, but Eddie Howe says he still wants 3 or 4 more signings. I remember seeing 4 yesterday. I've seen 3 today. Ambitious, considering we've only got 2 in, definitely. But Ian, do you reckon we'll get those 4 over the line, or do you think it's more likely to be 2 or 3 and then trying to get a little loan in before the buzzer hits?
Well, I think he probably counts loans as signings because Ramsdale's a loan, and we're counting that as a signing. But I think absolute minimum requirement is 4, isn't it? 2 strikers. I'm assuming Isak goes. 2 strikers, definitely a centre back. In my book, probably 2.
Yeah, I agree.
And having seen how Jamal Lascelles was shaping up, and how Emil Kraft is shaping up in the pre-season games, I think we just need one person to cover Shah and Byrne and Botman's place in the injury treatment room, we're wrong. We need 2 centre halves, and midfield. We've got 4 fit midfielders. When Willock gets injured for 4 to 6 weeks, he's usually out for 4 to 6 times. So I think we need 2 midfielders because Longstaff was sold, and we're still not strengthening in the numbers that we had. Fair enough. I think the quality of each of the signings we've done is strengthening the depth of quality in the squad.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Numbers wise, we've got no more in the squad now than we had when we had that disastrous injury-ridden season. But the last time we were in the Champions League.
Yeah, 100%. You're right, and I think you make a great point there about the quality of player being brought in much better. But obviously the quantity is a little bit less, and it's obvious that we've kind of tried to go for that quality over quantity approach. We've mentioned numerous times on this podcast, we just kind of needed to get rid of the dead wood. Isaac Hayden's officially left. I feel horrible saying Hayden and Deadwood because he was good for so long, but just doesn't fit with her right now. Obviously, we wish him all the best with whoever he signs for. But it's getting the quality in because Ramsdale's definitely improvement on Odysseys, Dubravka, anyone like that. When he was at Arsenal, it was between him and David Raya for the number 1, and it looked like Ramsdale was actually going to get the better of him for a period. So if you get that side of Ramsdale, you've genuinely got a decent number 1. He might play like he's got ADHD and can't sort of concentrate on things, but it's not that much of a problem. Every goalkeeper makes mistakes. He's not immune to that. Alanga looks fantastic. But yeah, 2 midfielders. Willock's always injured. Longstaff's gone. It's one of those where, one big injury in that midfield, and let's say it's a Bruno who thankfully has been fit to basically run 38 marathons for us a season, or Tonali, one of those 2 get injured and we're in serious trouble. What I will say is against Tottenham, I don't know what you thought about Lewis Miley, but I actually thought he had a really good game, and I've been really strict on him over the last season. And I genuinely think he's probably cemented that number 4 spot, unless someone, let's say like a Lucas Paqueta, comes in, because he's been really good, and I genuinely think this could be his proper breakthrough season. But I mentioned Lucas Paqueta there. 30 million is apparently going to be worth, or apparently that's all it's going to take to get him. I imagine after the most recent court case and stuff's been proven innocent, that'll probably go up to 40. But anything under 50, I think you're probably saying yes to Lucas Paqueta, aren't you?
Well, I think Bruno would pay it, wouldn't he, just to get his best mate in?
Yeah,
But yeah,
100%.
I mean, we were in for him when he went to. Did we make a bid for him? I don't know if we did. We might have
I
been.
feel like
We
we
might
did.
not actually have bidded. I feel like he was. He was definitely touted. I mean, he's a great player that first year for West Ham. At the end of that, Man City were after him, and then this match fixing sort of claim was made over him, and Man City backed off. But you know, Man City after Tino this season, that give you an idea of the sort of quality that they can pick out to go early for. I would
Yeah,
have Paqueta if we get him for 40 mil. I think he's the number 10 we don't have, isn't
yeah, 100%. I think the name that's been more commonly in the news recently is that of Coventry midfielder Jack Rodoni, or Rodoni, should I say? Who, for those that don't know, obviously Coventry plays in the Championship. He was one of their best players last season. 13 goals and assists across, not each, obviously, combined over the 40 odd games. He is apparently their best player. When you look up at the stats, he's quite creative. Um, he can play all the way down the left, so he could play left. He's played left back before. He's played left wing before. Played attacking midfielder and central midfielder. So he is quite versatile in that way. He would likely be playing as backup for central midfielder, and then maybe coming off the bench as more of an attacking option as well. That's looking at 15 million. I will say the only times I've seen him actually play is the semi-finals of the playoffs against Sunderland, where ultimately wasn't very good. He did have a tough game, but 24 years old, still a lot to learn. Would you be open to someone from the Championship coming in, a younger
he?
sort of player? Obviously, 24 is not that young, but someone a bit more progressive that way and giving them a chance rather than blowing the big bucks?
Well, certainly, if we need numbers in, yes. Radoni, I haven't heard anything about him for weeks and weeks, but before the transfer window opened, he was linked with us. I don't know if
Yeah,
Eddie had said something about him. If he's 15 million, it's it's what do you call him, Sean Longstaff money, isn't it?
yeah,
And at
100%.
24, with the improvement to come in the training methods of Magic Eddie Howe, I would have that chance. Of course, there's always an option when we're getting rid of Isak to factor someone like Harvey Elliott into that. I'd
Yeah,
rate him. He was the man. Was he the man of the championship in England under 21, winning the Euros? He certainly
it's
was
very good.
very good in the matches that I watched. I know Liverpool fans say he's only got one foot, but um, John Robertson only had one foot, and he won 2 European Championships, didn't he? So if it's
As
the
long as
good
that one
foot,
foot's good.
it's a good foot, then that'll do. So when we're light in midfield, that's one way where when we could bring in. I think he would fit really well. And when you think the clubs that he's been linked to are, I've seen him linked with West Ham and linked with Fulham. Nothing wrong with those teams, but he'd have to move to London. I know was he with Fulham originally? Um,
I'm not entirely sure.
but they've not got European football, certainly not Champions League football for him to play in this year. I don't think that would be the worst idea, particularly if Liverpool don't want to find any more cash than the 110 they already talked about. I'm sure
Yeah.
there could be a deal done to bring Harvey Elliott through if he's willing, of course. But yeah, so I think not 3 or 4 players, Eddie. I think you need 5 or 6 players
Yeah,
personally.
I'd agree, to be honest. I think we're really quite thin. And maybe it all hinges on Alexander Isak, and if we get the money for that, if he goes, clubs are going to know we're cash rich. We're going to be able to splash the cash wherever. To be honest, that might actually hurt us selling Isak this point in the window. Maybe if we spend the money and then get it back at the end, and it saves us having those prices driven up across the board. January, you're always getting inflated prices anyways, so nothing too different there. But yeah, I think it's one of those where prices are always going to be inflated for Newcastle United, probably even more so when Isak leaves. So if we can get those 5 or 6 done as soon as possible, I'm not saying before Isak leaves, but the likes of Jack Rodani, as we mentioned there, would be Harvey Elliott even would be a great signing. I feel like Harvey Elliott might be used in the Isak deal potentially as well. But that's all, the hearsay, speculation. So we'll move on to the second advert of the day before we go into part 3.
Can I just ask, with tongue in cheek, if Liverpool
Okay.
if Liverpool do sign Isak, do you think Ekatike will be available in the January window because he's only started 2 games and he sat on the bench and watched the rest? Who
Generally
knows?
could be because I don't. He's definitely not gone there to play second fiddle. And I generally, if Isak signs, I can't see Ekatike staying there for 3-4 years. I think he'll be gone pretty quickly, personally. But yes, Ian, if you could give me the Zencaster advert, that would
Let's
be
do
great.
that.
Lovely stuff.
Right, I've got them the wrong pages, the wrong way around. That's why I can't start. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about the lovely Zencaster.
Beautiful stuff. Now, part 2, I talked about the hypothetical. We're going to continue talking about the hypothetical in part 3. So let's say the window's shut right now. It's an absolute nightmare. We need 5, we've got none. Just this squad. But that does mean Alexander Isak has stayed, I guess, looking at it that way. So let's talk about where it would look like at the end of the campaign. Now, obviously, hypothetical, you don't know what we could do in January, etc. But Ian, if nothing changed, where do you think Newcastle would be aiming to finish in the Premier League this season? Is it still aim for the Champions League, or is it accept that maybe everyone else has improved? We haven't really improved that much, so we'll drop down a little.
Right. I'm assuming a fair crack of the whip with injuries.
Yes.
And for example,
Everyone has the same amount of injuries in a blissful, fair world.
and Joe Willock comes back from his and is back up and going by October, let's say.
Joe Willock's only missing for 15 games instead of the usual 30.
Fair enough. Okay. So Botman gives us a decent chunk of his season, like the first season he was here. I think Alex Murphy steps up and becomes at least as useful a member of the squad as Matt Targett or Emil Kraft, because I've been quite impressed with him even when he's come back as well. I thought the little bits I've seen in pre-season, he looks like he can do a job. Left back, centre left half, certainly good cover. Where do I think we'll be aiming? Well, we have strengthened goalkeeping position. We've strengthened the right wing position. We haven't diminished the attacking position if Isak is still there. Asula will get more minutes and surely has got to start putting all that effort and energy into something more
Put the ball in the
productive
back of the net.
than the headless chicken running around that we've seen in pre-season. But yeah, I think we are aiming to get that 5th place. I think the top 4 will be way ahead of us. But I
Yeah,
don't see the
I'd agree.
teams in that next raft. I see Tottenham and Man United coming back in to be chasing for it as well because they have strengthened. But I don't
Yeah,
think Brighton have. Brentford have certainly nowhere near.
no,
Bournemouth have
drop.
sold some of their best players. So I think we would still be We would still be aiming to finish in the top 5 to try and qualify for the Champions League. We'd still have another fair crack at a cup run because we could put a brilliant first 11 out and beat anybody on their day. Whether the crack starts showing because we've got 8 games to play in the Champions League, I'm not sure. I can imagine we'd get through the league and finish, and probably with the luck of the draw, end up playing Liverpool in the round of 16 or whatever it is, and bowing out
Yeah.
gracefully there. But I don't think we have to lower our sights as to what we want to achieve. I think we've raised the bar. If we want to improve, if we want to have this constant improvement, if we can get beyond the group stage in the Champions League, that is a step forward. So why not? But I mean, it'll be so much easier with 3 or 4 more first team squad players in there.
Yeah, 100%. I think we definitely need to strengthen to meet our ambitions. I'd say with the Champions League, 24th, which is in the league phase, just enough to get yourself through. Realistically, you need 11 points from 8 games to get that. I think even with the current squad, we're probably capable of doing that. If Isak goes and then you're sitting with Osula as the striker, I don't think that would happen. It'd probably be Gordon, let's be honest. And then Osula coming off the bench.
Gordon looked like he could do a proper Premier League job in that match against Tottenham, by the way. I thought he looked
was very
really
good.
sharp.
Probably the sharpest we've seen him in 6 months.
So, yeah, he could play centre forward and Barnes coming in down the left-hand side. That worked really well. That's the first time I've seen them play that system where they both looked effective. They always seem to be falling over each other when they've did it in the league last year. So, yeah, I think we should be able to get 11 points, shouldn't we? We've got 4 games at St James's Park. Certainly against the team in our pot and the team in pot 3. If we get them at home, we will get them at home. We should be winning those, and then we've got another team in pot 4 away from home. We just need to pick up a couple of draws, and as long as we got Paris Saint-Germain at home, we'll be laughing.
Someone will be laughing. I might be crying. But yeah, I think it's sort of the teams that got 3 wins in the Champions League last season in the group stage. Only 2 of them didn't qualify, and that was Zagreb and Stuttgart. Who again, Stuttgart lost 4, and Zagreb only lost out on goal difference. So as long as you're not getting battered like Zagreb did, they probably lost 7-0 or 7-1 to someone. I can't remember the fixtures, but it's they play a Bayern Munich and that kind of thing happens. That's not real. That's realistically not going to happen to Newcastle. We might get beat 3-4-0 maybe off some teams. If we come up against a in-form Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, it probably will be curtains. There's levels, unfortunately. But yeah, I do agree. I think the top 4 in the Premier League, that's pretty much set for the next 2 seasons. I think. Your Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and Chelsea. But then the rest, it is possible to be the best of the rest. I think Aston Villa they've had the same problem we have. They can't really strengthen. They seem to just have their players leave at the minute, which isn't great. I think they're weaker than what they were last year. Man United and Tottenham are going to be better, but realistically, they couldn't be much worse.
Man United haven't strengthened anywhere in defence or midfield. I don't see them. I don't think they'll finish 15th, but I don't think maybe they'll be aiming at top half. It'll be a success for them. Forest are strong.
Near, personally.
Do you not?
No, I think
they've
it's
replaced
Europe first
Elanga.
season.
Yeah, true. I was just thinking of somebody else there. Yeah, Palace. If Palace lose Eze and Gahey as well, they're going to be much weakened, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's all shaping up for Sunderland to finish in the top 10.
Granit Xhaka masterclass after he gets 2-footed by Joe Linton in the first derby and gets injured for the rest of the season.
No, Joey wouldn't do that. He's more likely to knock his nose off.
Yeah, true. He does need to stop that, by the way, because it was the Arsenal game against the young Max Dowman and then against Archie Gray. I've got a feeling he just hates young players. And Sunderland have a lot of young players, so when it comes to Derby Day, elbows are just going to be flying around the gaff like he's doing a little dance. It's going to be quite a bad one, but we already know that Derby Day. We've got Bruno, we've got Joe Linton. We've got some very passionate players. There's going to be yellow and reds flying around. Granit Xhaka is only just going to make it more of a bloodbath. It just means they might give something back. They're not going to score, but they might get a good tackle in there, and they can celebrate.
If Isak leaves, who's going to put the ball in the Mackham's net?
We've got 10 other players that can do it.
We're going to have to find a new song.
True.
Bring back Shola.
John Ruddy can do it. It's fine. It's only Sunderland. We'll put him up front for the one game of the season. Ruddy put 4 in the Backham's net. Ruddy put 4 in the Mackham's net. Should I say that sounds quite good to me.
We're definitely getting in the realms of fantasy football here, Michael. You're a massive Ruddy fan, aren't you?
I just find him funny. I think it's funny having a player that's realistically just there for the pictures and there for a bit of crap, and probably is a great behind the scenes man. I imagine him being a bit like a Ben Foster was, where just a really big personality helps a team out, and I love that kind of player as long as it's not Jordan Henderson. So yeah, that works perfectly.
Did you see Gillespie play as well? Gillespie came on against Tottenham.
Yeah, last 13 minutes or something. It was weird because the only goalkeeper that hasn't really had any minutes, obviously Dubravka hasn't, but he's leaving, which probably should have mentioned on this episode, actually. That's my bad. He's off to Burnley, apparently. But obviously the only other one that didn't play was Odysseus, and he's the most expensive goalkeeper in our history. So...
Yeah.
that's tragic.
There was a Spanish team interested in him, but that's going to be
or was it Villarreal? One of the two.
I don't know. That's going to be a loan where we're still paying all of his wages, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. We've got to pay them $5 million to take him off our hands.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but there you have it. That's a wrap for this episode of the Daily Newcastle Podcast. Big thanks to Iain for joining me. And to all of you for listening in. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or something, hit follow, leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, just make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. We do have a new social media man, so it will be a lot better quality than what it's been recently on YouTube, where it's just been myself, and I'm useless. So yeah, big up to James who's joined us. Keep an eye out, because we might just be popping up on some new platforms as well very soon, but I can't say any more about that for now. But just watch this space. And, well, we'll see you next time.
Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.